the TV30 studio. Here's Jim Schneider.
And good evening. Welcome to inFocus. So glad that you could join us for our broadcast tonight. We have some very vital information we need to share with you on the program. There are those who are longing for power and control, and there's an agenda that's been going on for a long time. We're going to be exposing some of that here this evening. But sometimes we find that an agenda may be delayed, it might be postponed, there might be some kind of detour for a time, but the agenda remains the same. And there are those that are part of the deep state, the globalist governments as well, that want to perpetuate getting us to that point of global control over who you are, where you live, what you drive, if you drive, what you eat, where you can grow that food, and on that list goes. But even despite Donald Trump being elected as 47th President of the United States, the agenda continues. We have to understand that. There is a plan that's been developed called America 2050, New Strategies for Regional Economic Development. And we're going to be discussing that plan and how that impacts you right here in Southeast Wisconsin and in communities around this country as well. Joining us in studio, it's our privilege to have Tom DeWeese. Tom is the president of American Policy Center. He is one of the nation's leading advocates of individual liberty, free enterprise, private property rights, personal privacy, back to basics education, American sovereignty and independence, and protecting our constitutionally guaranteed rights. And Tom, welcome to Milwaukee. Good to have you here.
It's great to be with you, Jim. I really appreciate it.
We have interviewed many times on radio and once before here on television, but you're here for a reason. You've got some very important messages to be conveyed to people throughout the state of Wisconsin. And we're going to be talking about this America 2050 plan in just a moment, but Donald Trump was elected. It was not part of the plan of the deep state for him to be elected, and now we are less than 3 months into his presidency. Your observations, what you're seeing so far?
Well, I've jokingly said that as they are revealing the things that are happening, the U.S. aid, all that money, that incredible amount of money that's being spent to buy media and everything else. And I've jokingly said that the tinfoil is falling off my head like confetti because these are what we've been warning about for many years, and people, it's just too incredible that people just didn't want to hear it, didn't understand it. And that is now coming out. So that's the best part of the whole thing.
Yeah, matter of fact, 11 weeks ago today, he was inaugurated. Hard to believe.
Yes.
Just 11 weeks have gone by, and one of the things that's new to the reporters, he doesn't call it a day at 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Exactly. Doesn't take a nap. We're beginning to wonder if he ever sleeps. But he's, after what happened to him in 2020, I think I noticed on Inauguration Day, he wasn't smiling, everything. He had this determined look on his face that he was ready to go. We're going to take care of this. He always talked about we're going to get rid of the deep state. And he did some things in his first administration, but this time, over those 4 years when he was out of office, he obviously studied a lot and learned a lot and came ready to go, and he's doing it.
He's ready to go, he's doing it, and so therefore, Tom, there are some people who say, nothing to worry about any longer.
Yeah.
How do you respond to that?
That is just the worst possible thing to happen. I'm seeing a lot of news, particularly some conservative news, that is just talking about how the Democrats have no agenda. They haven't grasped what happened to them yet. They're just lost. I've even heard it said that they aren't ever going to get another Democrat president elected, things like this. This is that's a horrible thing to be saying right now because these people never give up. They are determined. They have an agenda, and they never, ever back off from it. When Republicans lose an election, they usually say, well, that's just the way it is, and well, better luck next time. Yeah. These guys say that'll never happen again, and they dig in and they get stronger. And we're seeing that happen. The very first part of their agenda right now is to discredit Donald Trump. And so you have them coming out what looks like these crazy demonstrations and so forth. But the whole thing with what he's putting on other countries and so forth, right. They're saying, oh, he's losing our allies and all of that.
The tariffs.
The tariffs, and what you're really seeing is these countries coming together and say, hey, we'll get rid of ours if you won't do that to us. That's exactly his plan. And I think sometimes he comes out and just says things like, we're going to take over Canada and Greenland just to get in a negotiating tactic to get them to talk to us. I don't think he has any intention of actually doing that, but it's just the way he's kind of joking sometimes. I think he does that. Yeah.
And Greenland, perhaps he does have security interests there.
Yeah.
Canada, perhaps not, but think of the Panama Canal and the strategic ends there with China, communist China having control over the ports there. It's a concern for the United
The Panama
States.
Canal issue is a major one, and he's absolutely right on that. I've been to Panama and see what's happening there.
Yeah.
And they, when Jimmy Carter turned it over to them, and we saw the Chinese beginning to move. They not only have the Chinese moved into the canal, and if they controlled that canal and wouldn't allow American ships through, our Navy couldn't fight a war if we wanted to, and our everything involved in that. But they also Chinese are moving into other countries in South America and so forth, and getting ports set up and situations set up there. And if you remember the Monroe Doctrine, which we lived with for many, many decades, that said foreign influence would not be in North and South America. And that has gone out the window as well, and the Chinese are taking advantage of it. Yeah.
Well, let's hit some issues here. Even on the UN World Economic Forum announcement from Klaus Schwab recently, he's going to be stepping down from his leadership position. Was that thwart their agenda or not?
I don't think that has anything to do. I mean, his son, I think, is going to take over and everything. I've often said that Klaus Schwab is like the perfect James Bond villain. The way he looks, the way he sounds, and of course what he does.
Right.
And they have a very definite agenda with the World Economic Forum, the Great Reset. We started out talking about Agenda 21, and then we got Agenda 2030, which really is 17 goals that if you look at it, they tell us this is all about environmental protection, but if you look at those 17 goals, about one or two of them mention the environment.
Yeah.
Everything else is about controlling our economy and how we live. Then you get the Green New Deal and much more. Again, a Green New Deal, you think is all about environment, but it's not.
Right.
And the Great Reset is really the whole thing. That's exactly what they say, a Great Reset. And what we have to understand is that, as we've said, it's an agenda, and it's not about environmental protection. It is about global control. And what they have done is they have found a way to get us to voluntarily give up our liberties by using the fear tactic. The fear of what? The fear of environmental Armageddon. And I've had environmentalists get in my face and say, it doesn't matter how many rights you think you have if you don't have a planet to stand on. And that's the fear. And with that fear, then we keep giving up our liberties and saying, well, we've got to protect the planet. But if you look at their programs, if you look at the facts of this, is man doing anything to damage the climate, so forth, there's no consensus of scientists, as they say there is.
Yeah.
And it on and on and on. It is just not factual, and we're starting to expose that. So,
Wasn't it Ben Franklin or someone who said that the people who give up their freedoms for the sake of security deserve neither?
Exactly, yes.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening.
So we were talking about the World Economic Forum. They just had a meeting in San Francisco that took place last October called an Urban Transformation Summit. What was that all about?
Yeah. What it was, from what I've been told, is that they, even though our news media was saying that they had no idea that Trump would win this election, they already knew that that was going to happen. It's been behind the scenes. And what the World Economic Forum did was how do they keep the agenda going? They knew Trump wins from the federal level, from the top, he was going to cause all kinds of havoc, as he has done. Federal programs, the money, things like that. You have HUD, EPA, Department of Transportation, that have been the major federal agencies that have been pushing this agenda through their grant money and so forth. And so what were they going to do to keep moving? They had this summit to talk about going into the local level and really focusing on city councilmen, county commissioners, state legislatures, keeping these programs going no matter what the federal government did. And they'd be able to sell it there as, well, this is just local, local, local. And so, this is what that's the agenda, keep moving forward. And they came up with tactics there to do it. And I'm already seeing in communities around the country where they are stepping up more and beginning to push these programs.
Well, we're going to talk about one of these programs. It's been underway since 2009. It's called the America 2050, New Strategies for Regional Economic Development. What exactly is this?
Yeah. Well, first of all, regionalism is a major tactic for them. You have non-elected regional councils that end up, we have many across the country already where they have 10, 15 counties all in that region. And what they have done is they put together a one-size-fits-all plan in every one of those counties that have to go along with it. And you get your local elected representatives saying, well, there's nothing we can do. The regional council says such and such. Why do we elect the local elected officials?
Right.
Because they're just being told what to do.
Somebody else is calling the shots.
Yeah. And so you think, well, what is that all about? Let me share this with you, because this tells exactly what we're dealing with on the regional stuff. This is from the UN Commission on Global Governance. They said, this goes back about 20 years. They said, quote, regionalism must precede globalism. We foresee a seamless system of governance from local communities, individual states, regional unions, and up through the United Nations itself.
Wow.
I mean, it doesn't get any straighter, any more clear than that of what their plan is. And what they do, they have this agenda to impose. We've already heard about smart growth and 15-minute cities, and we've heard them talking about taking control of our food supply, taking control of our electrical system, our energy system, whether we can have cars or not, and on and on and on. Could you have a gas stove in your house? All of these things are about controlling our society, changing it, and they use the environment as the excuse for it all.
Don't we have an example of this with Soros, George Soros, how he just invested so much in getting district attorneys in various counties and other local officials. We see those that are trying to take over the school system, the education system, by focusing on the school board. And meanwhile, people just kind of, sit back in their easy chairs saying, just a school board election, we don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, this is one of the things that I've learned. When you are more of a conservative person, what is it you want as a conservative? You want less government. Right. You want less impact on your life. Basically, if you want to put it in straight line, we don't like government. And what we find, conservatives get very excited about presidential elections. They get involved and do that. But going to local meetings, getting involved on the local level, it's a headache. I've got a family to raise. I've got a job to do. I can't be bothered with that. And these forces, and this is what we really have to understand, is this force of non-governmental organizations that are there in your local community, surrounding your elected officials. They've had up till now with HUD and so forth, the grant money. And they have basically, hey, we've got it all right here in a box for you, and you don't have to do anything. Just take it. Here's the money for you too. And so every community across the country are putting these plans in place, all under the excuse that they're local, that they're all local.
Right.
But the exact same language, the exact same plan, one size fits all. This is the agenda to eliminate national sovereignty, eliminate individual liberty, property rights and so forth, and global control.
Wasn't this kind of even like the Zuckerbuck money that went out to different key cities and states, like in Wisconsin, 5 different cities at the last election, having a great impact? We'll take over your elections for us. We'll fund it. Here's a gift, and take it easy this election cycle.
Yeah, absolutely. And Soros, as you mentioned, buying the attorney generals and they helping get elected officials in place and all of that. What I found shocking with the U.S. aid issue, we were always told that, well, Soros is a billionaire and he's using his money to do this. Now we find out that he was getting money from this USA thing. He wasn't using his money to buy all this. He was using our money to do it. And that's probably the biggest shock I got of the whole thing.
Friends, you're watching In Focus. Tom DeWeese is our guest here this evening from American Policy Center, and we're talking about America 2050. If you heard the quote he gave just a bit ago, the emphasis really that the UN has on local and setting up these regional areas. We're going to put a map up here on the screen, and you even have this on your website, Tom, with a report that you've done on this, a map of various mega regions, and you speak of 11 different mega regions, and we see different shapes and colors there. Tell us about this map.
Well, what they did is they took what they called the home of 3/4 of the nation's population. So this is where mainly the people live in these areas, and they also call it the economic engine for the nation. So this is the place. First of all, if they have to keep moving forward to keep the agenda going, even though Trump at the federal level is tearing things down, how do they do that? They are looking at these mega regions around the country, which are centered around major cities: Chicago, Los Angeles, Boston, all over the country, these mega cities. And then they put this mega region, and it's all about having the one-size-fits-all plan in each of those regions, keeping it going. And so that's how this is to operate, to keep the agenda going, but pretend like it's all just local. But all of those big mega regions and all these big cities, they're the center of keeping the exact same plan moving forward.
Kind of reminds you of the EU, doesn't it?
Well, and that's exactly, as I was reading their documents, and they talked about how the European Union was a model for how they wanted this to run. Understand, nobody is voting for this. And these regions that are put in place, nobody's elected to that. Nobody's asking, do you want to do this? And here you are, the idea of having a local election, to get your own city councilman, your county commissioners, you do that because, well, this guy this is running for office and he has something to say that I agree with. That's how I want my community to be. That is being taken away from you. It's being robbed from the local people as these plans, these regional plans, are coming in to control, and your local elected officials are going, well, there's nothing we can do about it. This is just the way it's done now. And this is what we have to fight.
So who is calling those shots?
Yeah.
I mean, who are they taking marching orders from? I mean, if they're telling people, well, that's just the way it's done, and sometimes, as you said, they make people think, well, that's just our local community. There's no big plan on all of this. Somebody's calling the shots.
You go back into what those plans are and where they come from, the 15-minute cities and the smart growth and all of those kind of things, and talking about your transportation system and everything. Every one of those is coming out of plans in the World Economic Forum and the United Nations. That's where it's coming from. This is a global agenda.
Wow.
And I'll take you one more step on this. All this attack that we've had on our borders of illegals coming in, why? Why were they forcing all of that in? Now, a lot of people say, and it's true, that the Democrats saw these are going to be voters for the future for them. But the other thing it does is it destroys our culture, our way of living, our way of life, even our English language, everything.
Right.
And so invading our country with millions of these people coming in, what they have done is eliminate our national sovereignty. And these other programs eliminate not just our national sovereignty, but our state borders to mean anything, and our city borders to mean anything, and the border around your house, the property that you own.
Tom, we need to really, again, look to Europe to see what's happening there. And we have seen the invasion of immigration into these countries. They don't look the same as what they did a decade or two ago.
It's amazing to look at England, which had probably the proudest history of any country in Europe. And who would be an Englishman, and you have the king, and you have all that. And today, they're unrecognizable. They're communities and everything are controlled by these illegals, what they're doing, and these immigrants coming in there and changing their entire culture. That is the plan. They have to change the culture. You look at our Constitution and how we were set up. Our Constitution was created by our founders we have natural rights we were born with, rights God gave us. And it's the duty of government to protect those rights you were born with. We're the only nation on earth that really put that down like that. Everybody else, the government told us what we have to do. So,
Tom, this agenda that you're talking about here is so contrary to the agenda that President Trump has, his agenda for the United States of America. And we see the Regional Planning Authority that is coming in this, and they're very focused. And they use this statement, hold ourselves accountable for progress in diversity, equity, and inclusion. So despite what President Trump is doing on DEI, that plan lives on.
Exactly. And this way, they're saying, well, this is local. This is what the local people want. So that's how they're selling it. They have not backed away from 1 ounce of the agenda. And for our news media to be saying that the people behind this, the Democrats and so forth, have no agenda, they have no plan, is absolutely false. They have never backed away from their agenda, and that proves it right there, that is what they continue to move forward with no matter what happens.
So what is the agenda? What is the plan? What do they want to do to our cities? What do they want to do to rural America?
They want to control from the top, to have us live the way they want us to live. And in the rural areas, people in the rural areas are much more independent than people in the cities. And so
that doesn't fit into the agenda, does it?
Yeah, no, it doesn't. And so that's what you see this move to. We're losing thousands of farms every day, thousands of cattle ranches, and this is our food supply. And what controls you more than anything else? Control your food supply, control your water supply, and they get you into the cities. And they can now control your energy use. They're talking, the whole goal is with the smart growth programs is to build these high rises that everybody lives in. And they control your energy use in there.
You call them stack and pack?
Stack and pack. They control your transportation, where you go, what you do. They now have, look at these monster communities in China. You've seen these pictures of these high rises there that, if they go any higher, they're going to run out of air at the top. There's monstrous things. And what happened during the pandemic? The Chinese were able to shut everybody down. They weren't allowed to leave their home.
Right.
This is what happens, getting you all into those.
They would actually shut people into their high-rise buildings, and they could not get out. They could not get food. People were going out on their balconies, crying out for food.
Yeah, they were starving to death, everything else. This is control. They have no care about human beings and your ideas of life, what you want to do, your goals and so forth. They have an agenda to control. And I will bring one more thing up here with this. Over the years that I've fought Agenda 21, I knew one of the main goals of that was population reduction. I actually didn't talk about it much over the years because it was, it was hard
lightning
enough.
would hit that tinfoil hat again.
Yeah, it was hard enough to get people to understand the threat to their property. And if I started telling them that these guys had a goal that the Earth can only support like 1 billion people, so 7 or 8 have got to go, billion. But now you see in the very forefront of these agendas all these different things to reduce our population. And that's a major force in it.
Yeah, here's, again, this is from the report here, America 2050, a prospectus. And we just see they have a thing, rapid population growth and demographic change. Continued population growth will also bring significant demographic changes with implications for the way we plan our cities, metropolitan regions, and transportation systems. So they're going to get into those things. But you mentioned population control, and I'm going to show a couple articles here. I did a little research. This is from the Los Angeles Times from June 6 of 1992, Tom. And they're talking about one named Jacques Cousteau, if you remember him.
Absolutely,
And he said, even if we find a way to feed this human tidal wave, he was talking about the rise of population, find a way to feed this human tidal wave, it would be impossible to provide this multitude with decent living conditions. Surviving like rats is not what we should bequeath to our children and grandchildren, he said. A very interesting comment from him.
Yeah.
And then I did a little bit more digging on him, and here's what they state. And friends, I'm bringing this to your attention because, again, people say, oh, conspiracy theorist, and when you talk about population control, but friends, that's what it's all about. Listen further here. Some snakes, mosquitoes, and other animal species pose threats or dangers for humankind. Can they be eliminated like viruses that cause certain diseases? Cousteau said, getting rid of viruses is an admirable idea, but it raises enormous problems. In the first 1400 years of Christian era, population numbers were virtually stationary. Through epidemics, nature compensated for excess births by excess deaths. And then he said we must eliminate 350,000 people per day. That works out to 127,750,000 people per year and 1.27 billion people over 10 years. He said.
Yep.
He was joined by Ted Turner. He said the simplest answer to that, the world's population should be about 2 billion people, Turner said. We've got about 6 billion people now. I haven't done the actual tables, but if every woman in the world voluntarily stepped up and said, I'll only have one child, and if we did that for the next 80 to 100 years, that would reduce the kind of suffering we're having. We could have 10 billion people living below the poverty level, or we could have 2 billion people living well and having color TVs and an automobile. Friends, isn't that what life is about? The planet can support that number of people, and that's the way it was in 1930. You don't have the global warming problem then, or all these problems. They have occurred since the population is built up. Paul Ehrlich, Stanford University, agrees, saying about 2 billion people. And I just, Rosemary Radford Ruther said the world of nature, plants and animals existed billions of years before we came on the scene. Nature does not need us to rule over it, but runs itself very well and better without humans. We are the parasites on the food chain of life, consuming more and more and putting too little back to restore and maintain the life system that supports us. It goes on with other quotes as well, but when you say population control, they have been touting that for a long time. That is the goal. That's the agenda.
Yeah, like I said, I knew it, but I didn't mention it. I was trying to keep my audience there
right.
at the time. But and then you take what you're seeing now. We're hearing all the time that, for example, in the United States, we aren't building or maintaining our population because people aren't having enough babies and so forth. And you have an education system that all these children come up through, and they're being pounded on about how human beings are destroying the planet, and and they make it sound like having a baby is the worst possible thing you can do, and so that we're seeing that happen. And the Sierra Club back when had a debate. Some of them were advocating that we would only have the Earth could only support 250 million people.
Wow.
And finally, the UN agreed on, the agenda came together that we'll agree on 1 billion people. And that is their goal, to get rid of, and how do they do that? First of all, you start cutting back on the number of people having babies. And then we've gone through the pandemic. How many million did we lose there?
And let me comment on that, because Bill Gates, very much an advocate of the shot, said if we do a real good job on vaccinations, we will save lives and reduce the population.
Yeah, save lives and reduce the population. That's yeah, absolutely. And what are they doing with the food supply? And they say we're going to eat bugs. And everybody I talk to, says, there's no way I'm going to do that. Well, if they control the entire economy and they control what is produced, then you won't have a choice. And here is your choice now. It's either starve to death or eat the bugs. That is these people are on the other side of human. They don't care about people.
Again, are we not seeing that take
Yeah.
place throughout, the breadbasket of the United States with wanting to put in carbon capture pipelines and destroy farmland? And as you mentioned, ranchers, farmers that are surrendering or selling their land off and losing so many of the family farms today and to the big corporations. Is that all part of America 2050?
Yes. Yeah. This is all the agenda altogether of controlling everything. And the farmers are out there. They all they want to do is farm. I've never met a farmer yet that didn't want to farm, and they don't want to get involved in politics and all of that. They are being intimidated by these corporations and these appointed boards and so forth, putting all this stuff in place, and they're being told, well, you need to sign an easement to voluntarily give us come over your land for the carbon capture pipeline or the solar farms and that sort of thing. And and if you don't do that, we're going to use eminent domain and we're going to take it anyway. So there's the threat. But what's amazing, particularly about the whole solar industry and the wind industry, first of all, as far as energy goes, they produce absolutely nothing. They are worthless as a source of electricity and power for our country. But what's really amazing is they are finding that on these massive solar farms, where the land is covered as far as the eye can see with these panels and so forth, is that these panels and stuff are changing the atmosphere over them, and they are causing warming. The very thing that they are trying to stop global warming, is creating the warming. It's also creating worse storms, tornadoes, things like that. And it's killing our food supply. But here is one of their secret weapons to really control. And one of the things you have to understand is they are selling this lie of climate change. And they've told us that climate change is going to change our environment. It's going to have heating. It's going to have worse storms and so forth. Oh golly, it's happening by what they are setting up. And when I've said many times that nothing man has done has created climate change, now I'm saying with one exception, the very plans that they are putting in place to save the planet are the things man-made that are damaging the planet.
So you've warned about conservation easements, and that's happening all over the country?
Yes, absolutely. And what they're telling farmers is that you need to sign a conservation easement to protect your farm, to make sure it's always a farm. And the farmers go, oh, okay, I'll do that. Now, you ask the question, why is their farm threatened? If you own the property and you don't want to sell it, why is there a threat? Oh, because these exact same people, particularly these NGOs, working with your city councils, your county commissions, and they start pushing these plans that they want to put the solar farms in or whatever. They want to build these high rises and all that. They slowly but surely, what they're really working to do in a lot of these farmers is they start when the farmer signs the easement, they start dictating how you're going to raise your crops and using sustainable development. Well, it doesn't work, and the farmers go out of business because of it. If they sign the easement, they sign it in perpetuity forever. But the land trusts that get you to sign it aren't stuck in perpetuity. They buy, sell, and trade land conservation easements. The Nature Conservancy, I saw a few years ago on its 990 report it sends into the federal government, had 4 pages of just deals they had made to buy, sell, or trade conservation easements, and these land trusts do this. And so they're making money from it. They're controlling it. But the land is then shut down. You've got nothing to leave to your family. You can't sell it because it's worthless. Who's going to buy it? And this is the conservation easements. Do not sign a conservation easement under any circumstances, because it is not going to protect your land to be always in your farmland. It's going to take it away. Once you're not able to grow crops and so forth on it, then that's open space. And that's the goal. No human activity at all.
Tom, again, I'm looking at this America 2050, a prospectus for it. It talks about alternative points instead toward more sustainable and compact forms of development supported by a variety of transportation choices. What is meant by that? Because every word really has meaning to it.
Right.
What are they talking about when they talk about more sustainable and compact forms of development supported by transportation choices?
Well, once you've moved people all into the community, into the city, and then we already have a tax on single-family neighborhoods to get rid of the single-family home and get into stack and pack. Now they control the energy use and all that sort of thing with it, and the way they sell it is that, well, you won't have to have a car anymore. You won't have to sit in those 5 o'clock traffic, anything like that. If you want to get to the grocery, you can walk there. You ride your bike. You can, roller skate, whatever you want to get there. And if you want to go further, well, we have public transportation.
Yeah.
And that's what they mean.
One other sentence from here. To significantly reduce its greenhouse gas emissions, America must adopt a comprehensive strategy that includes maximizing the fuel efficiency of vehicles as well as changing land use patterns that force reliance on personal automobiles.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they've already said for many years that having suburban housing is urban sprawl, and that takes away of course they'll talk about it takes away animal habitat for wildlife, spreads it all out there. You are causing more and more carbon emissions by having to drive through and for on it all, and that's the focus of it. Portland, Oregon was one of the first cities to put together they have an urban boundary around the city, and no growth outside of that boundary. I mean, you could fly over Portland and you can see the boundary as they built that. It's been over 20 years or so since they've done that. That boundary has not expanded much at all in that period of time. The population has grown by 80%.
Wow.
Now they have a housing crisis. And that's how they again, stack and pack, stack and pack, stack and pack. Well, the fact is, you can only go so high and then you're in outer space. You're out of air. What do you do then? Then they start making the apartment smaller and smaller and smaller till eventually you've got, here's where your bed is, and there's your bathroom, and there's your little kitchenette, and that's where you're living.
You've got a studio apartment.
Looks a lot like a prison cell.
Wow. And that is really where this is all heading. I mean, I see this, and I refer to this perspectives, and when people just will do a web search on America 2050, here's another one: America 2050 New Strategies for Regional Economic Development. Research seminar that was held in California. Here's another one: America 2050, an infrastructure vision for 21st century America. Then there's also Vision 2050, time to transform. And that's really what this is all about, changing.
Exactly. And the thing is, as you're reading all of that, and they're moving forward with it, is that Trump at the top is looking at this. He's really moved to stop some of the HUD programs, some of the Department of Transportation, the EPA he's really gone after. I've got a lot of friends who've been fighting the EPA for a long time that think they're just in heaven at the moment, They think, wow, the greatest day I've ever had in my life. But here you have, at the local level, they're still pushing these plans. And we have to understand, your local elected officials are surrounded by these people with massive amounts of money. Even though Trump has cut off a lot of their money, their war chests are still full of billions of dollars. And their intention is to keep moving forward until they can get rid of him and put it all back in place.
So, Tom, what's the strategy? Can this be fought? Can this be battled against?
Actually, it can. And that's what I work on more than anything. And a couple years ago, I coined the term building a freedom pod in your community. Focus on your community, your local elected officials. And if you've got good people on your local elected officials, they need you there to support them. Usually they're in a minority, and it might be one or two good guys. And if we aren't there, that's the problem. We aren't there. So they're surrounded by these NGOs. And my plan is that you be there and you be active, involved.
City council meetings,
City
planning
council,
meetings?
Yes. First thing you do is you start to research. You got to know who your enemy is before you can fight. Every community practically across this country has a comprehensive development plan. That is the T. Do you remember ever hearing that term 20 years ago? No. People just, the city councilman just ran a community.
Right.
But then they started using this excuse that, well, we've got to make sure our growth in our community is well controlled for the future, and our natural resources, all that kind of stuff. So they use this whole idea of these plans. And in that plan, you will find the grant money that they have taken. The grant money, in most cases, these grant programs coming out of HUD and EPA and so forth, were actually the NGOs helped write that. They know exactly what's in that plan. They hide things in there. Your community may get a grant to just help pave Main Street because it needs to be done, or there's infrastructure under there that needs to be replaced. Natural things for the community to do. But all of a sudden they're told, oh, you've got to put a roundabout over here, and all this kind of thing. Why is that? Oh, well, if sitting at a traffic light, carbon gets out and pollutes, and so we get rid of that.
That's a pet peeve of mine too, Tom.
Yeah,
With as much technology as we have, why we don't have smart lights out there? You can be going into an intersection at 2 o'clock in the morning, and the lights are turning, and you're sitting there. I mean, we should have sensors and cameras. We do at some intersections, but just think of all the carbon that could be saved by just having smart lights and so forth. But so you have information available on your website that people can learn on establishing a Freedom Pod?
Oh, absolutely. And we have a section on there called Freedom Pods.
Okay.
And we're working to update it and get more. I want to show what other people have done successfully, and I also want to show what you don't want to do because it didn't work. And so we're working to get that. We've got sample legislation. Protection of property rights is key to this. If property rights are protected, then sustainable programs can't be put in place. It's a destroyer of property rights. And this is a main thing that we focus on is, I challenge people, look at your comprehensive plan, go all the way through it and find one single word in there about protection of property rights. It's not there.
Wow.
And we've got to make our elected officials feel responsible for their actions. They've got to feel from us. And we've started asking some various questions, very, very basic questions of elected officials. And one of them is here you have these appointed boards, or you have these corporations, and you have the development boards using eminent domain and all that. And here you have farmers who are screaming bloody murder over what's happening to them. And we've started asking the question, who do you represent? Do you represent these appointed boards, or do you represent the people who voted for you? And begin to make them feel that kind of pressure. There's a lot of things we can do that way, but that's the kind of attitude we're working on.
Tom DeWeese is with us tonight from American Policy Center, and friends, his website, and again, a lot of information that's available there, AmericanPolicy.org, AmericanPolicy.org. You'll find much helpful information there, the Freedom Pods. You'll find articles that have been written on this, and sign up. You can stay informed by signing up for emails that come from right at the top of the page. You'll find a way that you can stay informed and put in your email address for that, AmericanPolicy.org. I've got more questions myself, but tonight we do want to open our phone lines as well. If you have a question you would like to ask Tom of things we've talked about here, part of the America 2050 agenda, if you will, pick up your phone, give us a call here tonight. Time is limited. We encourage you to dial us 414-935-3030. 414-935-3030. Toll free, the number is 800-733-8830. That's 1-800-733-8830. Friends, this is the plan. for Milwaukee, for Wauwatosa, for Waukesha, all part of this America 2050, and putting into these regional centers basically around the country, the major population centers, focusing in on Chicago, Illinois, for instance, and linking us even in that regard, but in other major population centers too. But your questions that you have on this issue, maybe a comment on what's been discussed. Does this represent your values, your beliefs? Does this represent private property rights? 414-935-3030 is the number. Toll free, you can reach us at 800-733-8830. And we encourage your calls. Tom, this is now not information that is going out through ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, CNN. I mean, it's not getting out there. This message needs to be proclaimed.
Absolutely. And again, this is one reason why people aren't getting involved and they're not hearing it. Mm-hmm. And that's what we're trying to change, is to get people to hear what's happening, understand what it is. And again, these are not just confused issues of that bad politicians have put into place. Right. There is an agenda, and we have to understand that. And the thing is, if you don't get involved, if you don't get there and start to work on these things, as we're advocating that you do, then you're going to lose your liberties. Yeah. And we have a chance to take it back. And really, with what is happening now with what Trump is doing at the top, where he and Musk are exposing all this massive amount of money and the fraud that's taking place there, for the first time, I mean, I've been doing this for 35 years in this particular issue. For the first time, we have a chance to really have that kind of support at the top as we are going after it at the local level. That makes us stronger than we've ever been before. And the worst possible thing you can do now is to stay home and say, well, they're going to take care of it. They can't do it alone. Right. This is the most important time in our entire movement on trying to fight this, that we really get involved and go after it.
Our number, 414-935-3030. That's 414-935-3030. Let's go to Jim calling from Greenfield. Hi, Jim, you're on the air.
Hi, yes. I haven't heard you mention anything about the voting, the securing voting, like the ERIC system needs to be cleaned up or get rid of even. And but are you doing anything on the voting situation?
Yeah, thank you. And I know, Tom, that's been an area that you're concerned about election integrity as well. Yeah. Is that any part of the 2050 plan, or is that a separate issue that you're also engaged in?
It's all part of the same agenda. Mm-hmm. These are pieces and parts. These are tools. How to get this done, how to get that done. And I honestly believe at this point that election integrity is the most important issue at the moment. Mm-hmm. If we can get control and have honest elections, we can wipe out these forces that are putting this stuff in place. Mm-hmm. And then you elect the good people at your local community, and they begin to take back control of the community. But if you just had the situation with the Supreme Court issue, and think, oh golly, we lost. And I heard some people saying, well, the reason that happens is Republicans don't really like to get involved in off-year elections. We stay home. Mm-hmm. Absolutely untrue. Mm-hmm. The fact is that the gentleman running as a Republican on that, he had 41,000 more votes this time than the leading Democrat who ran 4 years ago for the Supreme Court. Mm-hmm. He had a fantastic turnout. But this movement of getting us to get on mail-in ballots and going to vote early, Republicans keep pushing this, drives me insane when they do that, because those are tools of this left movement. Democrats put those programs together. It's their people who are counting the ballots as they're coming in early, who are watching the mail-in ballots, and you're voting early, and they are being able to see that and say, oh, we need to get this many more ballots created for our guy to win the election. This is according to Roger Stone, as a report he put out this week, that is exactly what happened in this Supreme Court case. It wasn't people staying home, it was cheating.
Jim, thank you for the call. You know, I find it interesting, Tom, that Wisconsin also had a constitutional amendment to make voter ID, photo ID, required by the Constitution. It passed overwhelmingly. How is it that the people voted for that amendment overwhelmingly and yet put in a woman who is very much in opposition to the voter integrity laws?
Because they didn't put her in. And the other one is most likely the vote of the people that they didn't mess with, but they went after that election. And that again shows they have an agenda. Here we got these conservative media telling everybody that these people they're done, they're never going to get anything else done, everything. And I'm saying they're moving forward if they can do. There is positive proof right there of keeping their agenda going.
We're going to go to, let's see, we've got Anthony calling from Milwaukee. Hi, Anthony, you're on the air. Hello, Anthony.
Hello, thank you for taking my call. I have one question. What about the police in these 15-minute areas that you're going from, like the store to whatever, and with the cutbacks of the cities or policemen, what are they going to do? Thank you, and I'll listen.
Okay, not sure.
Well, again, this is the situation of these forces at the top making these policies and having your county commissioners and city councilmen going along with it and reducing the police forces. Well, that's what these appointed boards told us, the regional development told us we had to do. And what I hear from police is, no, we don't have enough people. We need to have them. And so if we can get these forces out of the way at the top and have your local officials again take control of your community, then we can turn that around. Absolutely.
Diversity, equity, and inclusion, though, all part of this agenda.
Absolutely.
And they state it right in their documents.
Yeah, absolutely.
Friends, our phone number, 414-935-3030, 414-935-3030. Let's go next to, we have Russ calling in from Oak Creek. Hi, Russ, you're on the air.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. Maybe Tom could speak to all these farm fields are turning into solar fields. Is there like Chinese money coming into the state, and how would that be working through our legislature, and how can we maybe bring more public awareness to this?
Thank you for that. We're getting some cutouts here on the phone, but we'll answer that here. The farm fields and so forth.
Well, absolutely. That's Chinese money moving a lot in there. I mean, again, you look at their agenda, and how do they weaken us? Getting control of our food supply, getting control of that property. But state of Arkansas just passed legislation saying they cannot own land in their state. That's what every state needs to do. That having
referring to the Chinese.
Yes,
okay.
Yes, yeah, and having, especially the Chinese is a communist country.
Yeah.
They have their own agenda, and they never back off from it. And the United States is their number one enemy, and they trying to buy up our land and so forth. Why would they be allowed to own land here? And one thing to make very clear, they keep talking about, well, a Chinese company is doing this or whatever. There are no private Chinese companies. It's a communist country, and they are all controlled by the communist government. So, that's
what you're saying is this government is calling the shots of these so-called private companies.
Exactly.
Yeah. You have also learned something going on in the state of Washington, Tom, and that is where the state legislature is mandating the establishment of essential public facilities. What is that?
What has happened is the state legislature has mandated that communities put these things in place. And one of the communities that I've been working with in Colville, Washington, small community, they are demanding that they put in this system there to bring in people who are drug addicts and sexual assault people and various other things like that.
Behavioral health facilities.
Yes. And to come in there to be taken care of. Well, they're not from that community. They're from big cities around the state and brought into this small little rural community to take care of them. This is another way that they use these tactics to take control and destroy the culture. What is the culture of America? The culture of America is we're individuals, that we can own private property, we have a dream to live our lives as we want, we have free enterprise and all that. All of those things are targets of these things, and this is how they do it, bringing in these kind of programs.
We also see California, where these NGOs are pushing the city council to do away with these parking areas and replace them with high-rise buildings and so forth.
This is another a group of people who called me and looking for help. We've had Zoom meetings with them and stuff. Menlo Park, California. And the city council is moving to eliminate, this is in their, not their downtown area, but in where their sales area is, shopping malls and stuff. And they have 8 major parking lots there. This is where people come in and park to go and shop. They are now going to eliminate the parking lots and turn them into high-rise stack and pack, the whole thing with that, bringing people in from other places. So what do the people do who live out in the suburbs, who drive into town to go shopping? They can't. And they have pleaded with the city councilman to not do this. And what you have in the background are the NGOs who are pushing this. And city councilmen are going along with it and not listening to the people.
So often we're seeing that happen in cities across the United States where the top so many floors are going to be residential, the lower floors are going to be retail space. Just take your elevator down, do your shopping, and go back home again.
Yeah, or ride your bike, or take your skateboard, or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, and the other thing too with the public transportation doesn't go where you want to go when you want to go. It goes where it's going to go, and you got to adapt to that.
Right.
And when you have your own car and you're saying, "Hey, today let's go someplace," what if you don't have a public transportation that goes to that place? You are completely controlled by somebody else making that decision where you're going to go.
Yeah. Friends, I do want to make you aware, Tom is in southeast Wisconsin and actually traveling the state, just arrived earlier today, and he is going to be speaking on Tuesday, the 8th at 7 p.m. at Eagles Wings Nazarene Fellowship Church. That's located at 609 Andy Acre Drive in West Bend. I assume the public's able to come out to that event?
Absolutely.
That's tomorrow night in West Bend. And then Wednesday morning at the Machine Shed in Pewaukee, sponsored by the Waukesha County Conservative Business Coalition. You see the website where you can go to there, the wipatriotstoolbox.com/WCC-welcome. And not only can you go to that site, but you'll also learn Tom is heading then to Baraboo. He's going to be in De Pere, Wisconsin, up around the Green Bay area. He's heading over to Minnesota as well and sharing this. Is your message one of warning? Is it one of optimism?
It is very much what we've just done with this whole situation here. What the problem is, understanding that problem, and what to do about it. I will go into detail on how to organize and fight back on this.
Right.
I want to help local people organize and understand what they're up against and make a difference for them.
Well, Tom, thank you for coming here tonight for inFocus.
Well, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Tom DeWeese with us from American Policy Center. Again, friends, check out his website, AmericanPolicy.org. That's AmericanPolicy.org. Sign up, put your email address in there, and receive his updates. When something big is happening too across the nation that impacts these areas, he sends out a sledgehammer report to make you aware of these critical matters that are going on as well. So stay abreast of what's taking place. But keep in mind, there's an agenda, and it's going on. It's moving right now on the local level. We need to be engaged on a local level to be understanding of the overall agenda where this has taken us. Friends, we thank you for joining us here on TV30's inFocus program. May you have a very pleasant good evening.